My name is Jason Evert, and I've been traveling around the world for the last 20 years presenting the message of chastity, and we founded this apostolate Chastity Project with a website, chastityproject.com, and it's trying to take Pope John Paul II's theology of the body and his understanding of human sexuality and bringing it down to a level that typical high school and college students can understand. Not so much a fear-based or shame-based approach to human sexuality, trying to scare people to follow a litany of rules, but really arguing from the inside out. What is it the human heart longs for? And John Paul once said that chastity can only be thought of in association with the virtue of love. And so that's the connection we really try to make strong in the hearts of these kids, that abstinence isn't about like waiting to love your boyfriend or girlfriend. Through that sacrifice, you're loving them perfectly, you're loving them well. And so chastity is an expression of love, not just delayed gratification so you can love later on. And we find the kids tend to be very receptive of the message, that it's not, guilt and shame. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past, anybody can start over.
Well, look at the phrase theology, the study of God, theology of the body. What does that even mean? It means our bodies are not only biological, they're theological. They reveal the logic of God. What does that mean? Well, God has a story to tell us. If you look at the Bible from the beginning to end, it's actually a story about marriage. It begins with our creation as male and female and the call of the two to become one flesh. Throughout the Old Testament, God speaks of his love for his people as the love of a husband for his bride. In the New Testament, the love of the eternal bridegroom is literally embodied when the Word is made flesh. Skip to the end of the story, the book of Revelation describes heaven as a wedding, as an eternal marriage. Look at this. The Bible begins with the marriage of man and woman, but it ends with the marriage of Christ and the church. See, here's the whole Bible in 5 words. God wants to marry us. This is the message. God not only loves us, he wants to marry us. He wants to be one with us for eternity. And he wanted this eternal marital plan to be so plain to us. He stamped an image of it right in our bodies by making us male and female and calling the two to become one flesh.
Mon nom, c'est Isabelle Correa et je suis la directrice de mission jeunesse ici à Montréal. Je suis ici à la conférence Décoder l'Amour avec Jason Evert et Christopher West que nous avons organisé 7 en total. Regardez ça! Au-delà de 900 inscriptions pour les différentes sessions. On a parfois une image négative de parler de l'amour et de la sexualité. Moi, je rêve qu'on en parle plus souvent parce que c'est vraiment au cœur de qui on est comme être humain. C'est la source de notre joie, de notre bonheur, de notre réussite dans notre quotidien. L'atmosphère qu'on a vécue ces derniers 3 jours, c'est beaucoup de joie, une liberté de pouvoir poser nos questions, de dialoguer, d'avoir des vraies conversations sur des sujets tellement importants dans notre vie.
There's so many ways that you can weave John Paul's wisdom, into these talks, because the beauty of his personalism is it's really, like I said, arguing from the inside out. And so you talk to these kids, what's your experience? Are you finding the love that you're looking for? And why or why not? And, here's my story. And so we kind of share how I had struggled with pornography growing up in high school and how that never gave me what I was looking for. And my wife shares her testimony, how she lost her virginity when she was 15, came from a broken family and started down that path, and how she started over. And so when the kids hear this, they realize, okay, we're not wagging a finger at anybody. We're explaining, hey, we've all stumbled, we've all struggled in our quest to find love, and a lot of us just aren't satisfied. And so how can we find what God's plan for human love really looks like? With the public school presentation, we take all the religious content out. But in the faith-based presentations, obviously, we want to fill it up. And so we've got a presentation tonight, which is geared for young adults on how to save your marriage before meeting your spouse. And so we kind of point out that marriage preparation is often thought of as the last 6 months before your wedding, just getting everything ready. But that's not really marriage prep. That's kind of triage. That's last-minute effort. The Catholic Church's understanding of marriage preparation is that it is immediate, but then it's also proximate and remote, meaning marriage preparation needs to start, according to Pope Francis, at birth. is when he said marriage preparation starts. And so tonight's talk for the young adults is explaining, what's God's plan for human love look like when you're a 21-year-old single living as a young professional in downtown Montreal trying to find love in this secular culture. And then tomorrow we have a talk called Love or Lust, which is more geared for the high school kids. And then a third presentation called What's So Great About Being Catholic. Well, this is my first, I've been to Canada many times. This is my first time to Montreal. And so I've only been here less than 24 hours since my plane touched down, but I've had a fantastic time. The hospitality's been wonderful and the kids have been great. We spoke at Loyola High School today to about 500 boys, and then we went to a public high school and I gave the chastity talk to those kids. And a lot of people are like, how's that gonna go over in a public high school? But the kids formed a line 2 hours long after the assembly, coming up saying, Jason, I've never said this to anyone before, but... And then they pour their hearts out about the molestation and the addictions and I'm struggling with pansexuality and this and that. And the kids just pour it all out because they know that I'm not going to judge them and they know they're never going to see me again. So that helps too. And they just open their hearts, and just to have someone to listen to them that can actually help them. Like, how do I break up with this guy? I'm afraid. And to be able to just walk them through and give them some encouragement and hope is really what they're looking for.
We all have this hunger. We're looking for something. There's an ache in our bones. I didn't know that ache and hunger had a name until I discovered John Paul II's Theology of the Body. He was the first one to say, Christopher, I felt like he was talking to me when I read it, Christopher, this ache is called eros, E-R-O-S, this longing. And he was the first to tell me eros is a God-given desire that's meant to launch us to the eternal, to the infinite. So we have this hunger, but most people think Christianity is a starvation diet. Your desires are bad. That's kind of what we hear. Your desires are bad. You need to repress all that, but follow all these rules and you'll be a good, upstanding Christian citizen. If that's all Christianity has to offer, I don't want anything to do with it because I'm hungry and I don't want to starve. And when we think of our faith that way, we become fast converts to what I call the fast food gospel, which is the secular culture's promise of immediate gratification for those hungers, right? I don't know about you, Francis, but if the only two choices are starvation or fast food, I'm going for the chicken nuggets because I'm hungry. And that's what I did when I was a younger man in my teenage years, in my early 20s. I was eating a lot of fast food. But guess what happens if you eat a lot of fast food? You don't feel so good. And it put me on my knees when I was in university. And I remember saying, God in heaven, if you exist, you better show me why you gave me all these desires, because they're getting me and everybody I know into a lot of trouble. And that was the beginning of a journey. And when I discovered this theology of the body a few years later, I realized what Christianity really is. It's not a starvation diet. It's an invitation to a banquet. And any words in our vocabulary, in our language, that are connected to the body, they become meaningless. Boy, girl, man, woman, husband, father, sister, brother, mother, father. These words are becoming meaningless in our culture because we have disconnected human identity from our bodies. The message of Christianity is the message of the incarnation. It's the message of the unity of the spiritual and the physical. This is what Christianity proclaims to the world: the Word made flesh. Our world today is telling us our bodies are meaningless. But Christianity proclaims ultimate meaning. The Logos, God Himself, took on a body to reveal in the human body ultimate meaning. So there's a real battle going on in the world today between these two messages. One says your body means nothing, and the other message is, no, your body reveals ultimate meaning. That's the message of the church. Which one are we going to believe? Which one corresponds to the deepest cry of our hearts? My hope is, just as long as the Lord allows me, is to continue to invite people to this banquet. We live in a remarkable time. We have these little devices in our pockets, right? Imagine what St. Paul would have done if he had one of these in his pockets, a smartphone, right? I call these the modern Roman roads. 2,000 years ago, the secular world, the Romans, they built the roads that the Christians used to bring the good news to the ends of the earth. If St. Paul had one of these, where would he be? He'd be using this to get the message out. So at my ministry, it's called the Core Project, and it's C-O-R, Latin for heart. So if people want to learn more about how we're trying to get this message out, they can go to Core Project, corproject.com. We have all kinds of free information about how to get this theology of the body. First, to receive it, the theology of the body, and then to get it out. Our whole mission is learning, living, and sharing this theology of the body.